Welcome to Unleashed at Work and Home. I'm Colleen Pilar, and this is where pet professionals come for honest conversations about what it really takes to show up for yourself while serving the animals you love. If you've ever felt caught between compassion and exhaustion, you're in the right place. Here we explore what it means to reconnect with your inner wisdom and rediscover the joy that brought you to this work. Make sure to join my email community at colleenpilar.com for gentle, practical insights designed specifically for pet professionals. Now, let's dive in. Welcome back to Unleashed at Work and Home. My guest today is Debbie Sheridan, the owner of Debbie for Dogs. Welcome, Debbie.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here today.
I'm so happy to have you. So tell us a little bit about what kind of pet pro you are, what it is you do.
So I work with dogs mainly. I work with all sorts of issues. But my favorite and what I do the most is I help people to understand their fearful dog. People call because the dog is growling or trying to go after people who are coming in the home, or I get a call because there's been a few bite incidents, and sometimes I get a call after the fact. And it's always my favorite sweatshirt says "Celebrate the Growl," and I always try so hard to help people to see that a growl is something that we don't shut down.
Yeah.
And we listen to it. We want to hear the growl and be curious. What's upsetting you? How can we make it better? So many times I see people after they have used people who have taught them to do terrible things in the name of training,
Yeah,
right? And then I've cried with many people.
me too.
Yeah, right. We have. And I share that if a dog is lunging, growling because they're not feeling comfortable and they're feeling afraid, and then you hurt them, with a quick jerk or a shot collar, all you're doing is teaching them that they have a right to be afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And many times, as it happens when they call me, it gets worse
Yeah,
because we have taught them they have a right to be afraid. And then now they can't even feel comfortable to say it,
yeah,
and it's so sad. Now their life is pain, fear, and intimidation.
yeah. By people who are trying to help. Like,
We're trying to.
like their goal is to make things better. And
Right.
and that's yeah, I love Celebrate the Growl because the warning signals are such important communication. And if we teach animals that they don't work or that,
Right.
no nobody understands, nobody's listening, it's so
It's
it's
so
so
detrimental,
disheartening and so dangerous.
so dangerous. It's horrible for your relationship with your animal, and it's horrible for the animal. And then we have people say, when it does work, we have people say, "Look at my dog.
Mhm.
He's so well behaved and
Mhm.
obedient." And I actually dislike that word very much because
Yeah.
I'm not obedient, and I don't want
Yeah.
I want my dogs to be able to be free thinkers. So, um, usually that's just a dog afraid to let anybody know how they're feeling, afraid to do anything that can get them some more pain, or
Mhm.
yelled at. And I think people always relate better when you can turn it around and help them to see through
Yeah.
their own life, their own eyes. And I try to do that with whatever it is that we're talking about. So with the growl, I always say to clients, as humans, we growl all the time.
Mhm.
If I give an example that my husband usually throws out my tea, I make it and I let it sit for a little bit because it's too hot, and then I'll come in and I'll be like, "Dave, you threw out my tea? Why did you do that again?" And if I was a dog, that would sound like a growl, you know?
Mhm.
So as humans, we growl all the time, and we hold dogs up to standards that we would fail at time and time again. So
Yeah.
it's so unfair. And, people, then they stop and think and they get it. It makes sense to them.
Yeah. Yeah. We do sort of treat growls as extreme communication, and yet to compare it to, "Why'd you throw out my tea again?"
Right.
That's a valid thing. Last night I was cooking, and we have 2 grandchildren, 4 and 1.5, and it was a day. Woo, it was a day. And all the stuff was going on, and while I was cooking dinner, Jack walked over, looked in the pan I was in cooking in, and goes, "Well, don't forget, I wanted you to add peas." And I'm like, "Please don't be one more person who's micromanaging me." "I know,
So funny.
I know, I'm just getting started."
Yeah, yeah.
So,
He's
yeah,
so
that
calm.
that was my growl, but I just couldn't believe it. I was like,
That's
yeah.
so
The
funny.
1.5-year-old is standing and hanging on my leg going, "I need a hug." And I'm like, "Oh, buddy, I have a pan in front of me. This is not
Wow,
the moment." And
that's a
don't
lot.
the peas. Ugh.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Cooking with little people is always interesting.
Yeah.
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 Even with the dogs,
Mhm.
making something, there's a lot of drool happening.
There's a lot of drool happening. Yep, and,
So, but back to the growl. I even, unfortunately, I lost my Fitzy dog um, at the end of February, and he was really a guy that is so big in my world because he changed the trajectory of my life. I brought him home. I thought he was going to be my hiking buddy, him and his sister. And they were, instead afraid of the world, they had a tough
Mm,
beginning. And so I did all these deep dives. I hired somebody. I didn't like what he said.
mhm,
And I became the person that I am today. And there were 4 dogs, Debbie's 4 dogs. I
mhm.
had 3 dogs, and my son had a dog who was here a lot. So he was the last of the 4 too. So it was kind of a very tough loss.
Yeah.
And I often say to people, everybody has to do what's right for them. But I sometimes say that one of the best ways to help your heart heal is to bring home another dog who needs you.
Mhm,
And so I was with my granddaughter, and we went into a store, and she went to a bucket and she found this stuffed animal, and she said, "Nana, look, all these animals, and there's only one dog. I think that means you need to get him." And I looked at him, and he was the exact dog that I had been watching at the shelter,
mm.
the pound actually in Hartford. And I said, "Oh my gosh, Kinley, he looks just like Ned." She said, "Nana, show me a picture of Ned." And I showed her, and she said, "Oh, Nana, it's the same dog. You know what this means? You have to go and get Ned." So if you believe in signs from the universe,
Mhm.
I drove home and I went to the pound and I brought home Ned.
You brought home Ned.
I brought home Ned, and Sally was growling at Ned.
Mhm,
But we know that a growl is good information. And so I was thinking, well, maybe Ned can't stay here, but I'll foster him. But after a little bit, he is like a bull in a china closet. And Sally wasn't sure what to make of him. And after a few weeks, they're doing okay. But again, that's a perfect example of, what if I had yelled at Sally
yeah.
for saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm really not so comfortable with this strange
Mhm.
new person in my house." We would feel the same way,
Yeah,
perhaps, if we came home to some new person living in our house,
yeah, for sure.
Mm.
A question I love to ask all my guests is, when you were 10, what
Yes.
did you think you were going to be when you grew up?
When I was 10, I thought I was going to be someone who would counsel humans and help them to feel better. And I did do that. I did do that. Um, I counseled adults and adolescents. And then when I brought Fitzy and Stella home, I switched to being a canine coach.
Mhm.
Life coach is what I called myself. And it's still counseling humans,
It is.
yeah,
It is.
to help their dogs.
And so have you stopped, have you stopped non-dog related human counseling?
Yeah, no, I just although so when I kept when I brought Fitzy and his sister Stella home from the shelter in Vermont, I had a dog, a terrier, and he was 9 then, and we kept him around until he was 15, and I really kept him alive for too long.
Mhm.
And my sister came and visited, and she said, you are doing that dog such a disservice," as only a sister could say. I got
Mhm.
very angry with her, but she was right. And I let him I brought him in, and, I made 3 appointments to help him pass over, and the
Mhm.
first 2 I canceled, and the 3rd, I got there, and my vet said, "How are you doing?" And I said, "I'm leaving." She said, "Deb, you have to let him go with some dignity." And I
Yeah.
said, "He still wags his tail when he sees me." She said, "He will always wag his tail when he sees you. It's time." And I realized that he had been suffering,
Yeah.
and I had I should have done it earlier. And that comes with, a lot of guilt and sadness. So then Fitzy's sister passed away at age 6 because her liver shut down because they were so malnourished,
Mhm.
way back and early on. And I kept her not as long, but too long. And then I went through the University of Vermont program and became an end of life doula for companion animals.
Mhm.
So in that regard, that's more, helping people when to know it's the right time. And then, I lost Fitzy at the end of February, and that was a big, crazy thing where, I was really feeling stuck. And as it happens, once again, Fitzy is saying, "Well, now it's time for you to do this," and now I'm doing a pet loss. So I'm becoming a pet loss support group specialist, also through University of Vermont. But these are things that I'll do more on the side. But I don't think I'll ever walk away from going into people's homes and helping them
Yeah.
with their to understand their dogs and to help their dogs to feel better in their world. I think so many times people bring a dog home, whether you rescue or whether you get a dog from a breeder, wherever the dog comes from, and you have in your head, of course,
Mhm.
what this relationship is going to be like and
Yeah.
what you're going to do with your dog. And when it doesn't go the way you anticipated it to go, many times, unfortunately, the first reaction is, I have to fix the dog.
Mhm.
But dogs, people need to know that dogs are like humans. Some humans are extroverts and some are introverts. And if you end up with a dog who you thought was going to be your hiking buddy, but they're afraid of the world, then you have to look at your dog and say, I will love you for who you are.
Mhm.
And I know I can't make you into something you're not. And I think that's really an important message to get out there in the world, you know, because people need to know this about dogs, that they're free thinkers and they're not a pile of clay that you can mold into your own creation.
Yeah. And I do think dog training for a long time, when it was obedience training and all of that, created this image of, control and reliability and predictability and all of that. Um, and that's really tough on everyone. It's tough on the humans. It's really tough on the dogs
It's
to be like fit into that kind of this is what I expect, and the one who's going to change here is you.
right. And it's still, I think it's still like that. Um, and I mean, I go walking through my town and, I see it. It makes me sad.
Yeah.
So I wrote a little book. It's called Sally Decides, and it's just a little book with a big message. It's appropriate for kids or adults, and um, it's just about one example is it says kindness always for the win. And I ask people not to ask their dog to sit, but if
Mhm.
you sign up for a group class, it's usually the first thing that
Mhm.
that is worked on,
Mhm.
and people are like, "Look at that, he can sit," but they can sit. We can sit. But imagine if every time we walked into a room, someone told us we had to sit. And when dogs get old, usually most of them have bad arthritis in the back of their legs and it hurts them to sit. But dogs are stoic and they want to please us. So you ask them to sit and they say, "Oh gosh, this really hurts me, but I know it makes you happy." And they sit. So I ask all of my clients to throw out sit and instead to use wait. Because wait is wonderful. And you can get to the end of a sidewalk or you can get to a door opening, your door
Mhm.
opening, and you could say, "Itsy, wait." And your dog, use your little stop sign hand, and your dog's going to learn what wait means. But the
Mhm.
beauty of that is it's up to them if they want to sit down or stand up or lay down while they're waiting.
Mhm.
And that's important because somewhere along the line, over the centuries, we decided that we had to control every aspect of a dog's life.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that happened, but humans are pretty egotistical, and it did. It happened. So I like to throw that away.
And it can go because a good weight is really all you need.
Yeah, but I mean, last winter I was out walking without my dogs because it was so cold, and there was a woman, and she walked up on the sidewalk next to me, and it was 11 degrees out, and there was slush and salt
Mhm.
all over the sidewalk, and she made her dog sit. And unfortunately, too, this dog had on a shock collar and a prong collar, and she sternly told her to
Yeah.
sit. And I looked over, and the dog was shivering. And I just looked at her and I said, "You know, I wouldn't want to sit in that."
Yeah.
And she looked at me, and then the little guy came on. It was time to walk. And I said, "You could teach a wait." And she said, "It's time for you to walk." So I don't think I made any progress for that dog, but I did feel very bad for that little girl, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I wouldn't.
you wonder how come people don't think about these things.
Yeah. I yeah, I do wonder that. I do wonder that. And I think that there's a little bit of a block in
Yeah.
the people who don't think about it. Like they just
Yeah.
haven't ever. I mean, the mere fact that they used to do all sorts of, well, hopefully used to, hopefully that's completely gone, but so much testing done without
Uh,
any kind of,
anesthesia. Oh,
because animals
yeah.
don't actually feel pain or they, like those are just
Right.
automatic responses and stuff. And you're just like, no, no, all the evidence shows us these things. And so somehow you're managing to not see the evidence, to not take it into account. And I think it might be partly because our brains are such storytellers
Mhm.
that, I mean, all of the stories about the dog blowing you off and the dog, like
Oh,
I was taught when I first started training, I was taught that if a dog turns away from you and, they're snubbing you, they're ignoring you, and I mean, when I learned about like what calming signals were and
right.
like really could identify, oh, this is a behavior, I was so horrified.
Uh,
Not that I had ever been a trainer who was like, "Thou shalt not blow me off," but I had been in classes with trainers who had that,
mm,
methodology with my own dogs, and I would be like, "Please don't
horrible.
let them notice us, over here in the corner." And the disconnect between they're blowing you off and, "Ooh, they're in a little over their head." It's 180 degrees, it's crazy,
Absolutely.
and yet when we're looking for obedience and, thou shalt listen, then when they don't listen, there has to be a reason. And the easier reason is because they're bad or they're making a mistake
Right.
or they're
And then they
blowing you
suffer,
off.
and they're just trying their best to say, "Hey,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm not feeling so comfortable with this."
Yeah. It's just heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking.
So, when you mentioned your book, you also snuck in the theme words of today because I ask all of my guests to share some words that have meaning for them. And the words you shared with me is kindness always wins. And when you said about Sally decides, you said like it's important and kindness always wins. So, tell me a little bit more about kindness and how kindness always wins came into your life as something that is important for you to hold on to and share.
Mm. Well, I think it's so important, to always try your best to be kind to others, no matter who they are, no matter what they are. Um, you know, it's when I was in 6th grade, my girlfriends turned on me.
Mm.
Sometimes it's a crazy time in life when you're
Hmm.
adolescent girl
Yeah.
or guy. And I think that's when I really started to think about, when I grow up, I'm going to counsel kids. I'm going to help people to know how to relate to people in a good way. And there's so many studies out there, if we bounce back to the dogs, that dogs who are treated with kindness do get it right much
Mhm.
more so than dogs who are treated with pain,
Yeah.
fear, and intimidation, because everybody responds to kindness. And if you're walking down the street, I like to notice people and just say, "Oh, wow, I love your scarf." You know?
Mhm.
Not telling a lie, but if they have this cool scarf and
Mhm.
looking nice, and how much effort does it take to do something like this and you get such a smile and you feel good too because you
Mhm.
made someone else happy. And I think when you're kind to others, you feel better in your heart.
Yeah.
And I also have always felt like you can tell so much about a person depending on how they are towards animals.
Mhm.
So if and we know too that dogs, sometimes I don't really believe it, but we know that the studies show us that dogs have the brain of a toddler.
Mhm.
Um, Toddlers always do better with kindness. Everybody does better with kindness.
Yeah.
Lizards do better with kindness. No matter who you are, no matter what you are, it's better to be a kind person. You feel you can look back on your day and smile about it. You don't have to feel bad about what you did to somebody or a dog, and I just think that we should have kindness posters all over the place so people can be reminded to
Mhm.
be kind.
That is, it's actually even built into your business as, like, a tagline, like,
Yes. Yeah.
because
Kindness always for the win, you know.
yeah.
And I get so many of my clients after they use a person who was not kind
Mhm.
to their dog, and I've heard such terrible, terrible stories,
Yeah.
and they're heartbreaking.
They are
So
heartbreaking.
why? Why would we even contemplate something like that? I mean, I know so many people hire someone not knowing because it is an unregulated field and you don't know, and somebody is the professional and they come in and they say, well, you need to do this. And if you don't, you're weak and your dog's going to dominate your life and your house.
Yeah.
Um, many people have told me, well, it sounded terrible, but we felt like we had to do what he said
Mhm.
because he knew more than us. He knew better than us.
Yeah.
So it's a crazy thing. But if it doesn't feel right to you, it's not. And those are important words to live by too.
Those are important words to live by.
Mm.
And and actually, as you say that, I think that it kind of ties in that whole story making thing, because when it doesn't feel right to you, and then the trainer tells you a story that makes it feel better, like, "Oh, you're hurting the dog by coddling the dog and doing these things, and if you do this, it will be easier and clearer, and then the dog will," like, you can shift someone's inner knowing of, like, "This isn't for me," to, "Oh, maybe I don't know enough. Maybe it's that I don't fully understand and the expert knows better." So that then not that it feels good to them, but it feels less bad. And,
Exactly.
um, and so then people wind up in situations where they're doing things that do go against their gut, um,
Right.
because the expert told them to.
Right, right. My old terrier, Bupkis, he, he was terrified of thunderstorms,
Mm,
and he would shake and drool, and I would just hold him, and I had somebody tell me once, you know, "You're encouraging that behavior when you do that. You need to just ignore him when he's like that, because you are encouraging that behavior." And I heard this from people a lot. They're told
yeah,
that even today, still, even about thunder.
mhm,
And that's not a behavior. That's an emotion. That's a feeling. All you can do is do your best to comfort and make them feel better. And, there are certain things. Some dogs do better if you get a big blanket. Some dogs do better with a thunder shirt. Some dogs should humanely have some drugs if you know a thunderstorm is coming. But you to comfort them is not encouraging their fearful emotion. And it's always, I'm so blown away when I hear someone tell me that today, that they've heard it recently, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. That is
Yeah.
surprising that I mean, I know that we're in sort of an insular world, where first off, the education is changing dramatically and quickly. Like,
Mm.
I stopped training in 2018, and with dogs I've had since then, I've learned some really cool new things from trainers that I've taken my dogs to, and I'm like, "Oh, I wish I could have known that then." And also, there's a piece of me that's like, "Oh, wow. Is all that old stuff still really circulating as much as it is?" And of
It is.
course it is,
Yes. It's
Of
so
course it is.
terrible, but it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I know. I wish it was a more regulated field, you wouldn't have a plumber come over who wasn't really good about knowing what to do with your drain.
Yeah.
An
Yeah.
electrician could blow up your house if he wasn't really an electrician. So it is. It's tough stuff
It is tough stuff. It is
for
tough
the
stuff.
dogs. Um,
So, what's something you've learned about yourself since you made the switch from human clients focusing on human things to dog and human pairs? um,
Mm.
what's something you know now about you that maybe you didn't know before?
I learned that I'm, well, it was interesting because after my friends turned on me in sixth grade, after I got through that, I became a fighter for the underdog. Like if
Mhm.
I ever saw any kids picking on another kid, even in college, I would immediately come to their defense. I was just not going to let that happen. And I guess I'm the same for the dogs now.
Mhm.
It's very hard. If I'm with my dogs, I don't do anything. But if I'm out on a walk without my dogs and I see someone using a shot collar or a prong collar, I'll go up and I'll say, "Oh, your dog's so cute," and I'll try to start a kind conversation. have you ever thought about this? Have you ever thought about a harness? And some people are open to it, and some people, you could tell right away, or just like mind your own business. But I think for me, I'm always going to fight for someone who I think is being wronged, whether they're a human or a dog or a lizard. You know, I happened upon a couple years ago on Instagram, there are jumping spiders. I don't know if you've ever heard about this, that are like pets.
Oh, like pets.
Pets. And one of my daughters has a solid fear of spiders, as many people do. But I started watching these spiders, and they all have names, and they can do things, and they recognize their people. And it's this really cool thing. And I see spiders in such a different way now. So, in my bathroom, there's a spider now, and his name is Calvin. And the first time I noticed Calvin, he ran away, and I was like, but now he knows I'm not going to hurt him. Sometimes I'll give him a Q-tip of water. And so it's this interesting thing where, we can open our minds to different situations, and but we could always learn something new. I think it's so important to always go forward and always be willing and open to learning what else you can know.
Yeah.
And, even if it's learning that spiders can be named and you can befriend a spider, you know.
How does your daughter feel about Calvin?
She doesn't. How does she feel about spiders now?
I'm just curious if she can go to the bathroom at your house, or if she's like, "No, I'm not going in that one. That one's Calvin's bathroom."
Well, she lives in California now, and I'm in Connecticut, um, but I've talked to her, and she said she's trying to be more open and accepting. And she said there was a spider in her kitchen, and instead of freaking out, she just went by and said, "Hey, if you stay there, I'm okay, and I'll stay here." I guess they came to an agreement.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, good.
I think for me, a jumping spider, like, I have a problem with crickets jumping. Like, the unpredictability of the
Oh,
movement kind of
oh,
triggers my, like.
as many dogs do. Yes,
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
Starter response.
Yeah. It's so funny. And then I'm on high alert, but low functionality.
Yeah,
So,
that's
and
very
I can watch myself deteriorate in real time when
yeah,
when there's a cricket or a something. So,
that's so funny. Yeah,
yeah.
all of our things. We could desensitize you to crickets.
Yeah. There aren't actually. I lived in Virginia. We had crickets fairly often, but I haven't really seen too many in Michigan since I've moved. So, hopefully I haven't just brought them upon me by mentioning them, but
Yeah. They're funny when one gets into your house and you can hear
yeah,
him. They're so loud,
they're so loud.
and you're like, "Oh my gosh, Mr. Cricket, I have to find you and put you back outside."
Yeah, and then, when you get close and then they boing and they're 4 feet away.
Right, right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Mm.
And then, my cats would always just be like, "There's the cricket." Like, "Isn't that your job? Isn't it
Yes.
your job?"
Yes. Yeah, I know. That's true too. Yeah. We had some mice. Mm, My dogs did not get them. Mm,
Did not. Okay. Yeah.
yeah. Um, but yeah, I became a dog bite prevention educator to help people to understand more about
Yeah.
bite too, and hopefully if we help a dog to know that they're being heard when they're growling or sending us some other messages, it doesn't have to escalate to a bite.
Yeah. Always the goal. That's
Right.
always the goal.
Right.
So, for the pet professionals out there in the world, if I could give you a magic wand and you could give us a wish or a blessing, something, what would you give us?
I would give us all the ability to be able to take that wand and touch anybody on the head who was using a prong collar or a shock collar or any other things with their dog, and we could lightly touch them, and suddenly they would have all this knowledge that these things only truly make things worse and that it just makes their dog suffer, and they would miraculously understand that kindness is the way to go, and harness is always a better option because it feels good. And, once again, where we kind of miss the boat is that dogs have a trachea and a thyroid gland and their esophagus, just like we do. And if we press on
Mm-hmm.
our throat, it is really uncomfortable. So to see all these dogs walking around, with this, it feels the same to them. It's not
Mm-hmm.
comfortable. And many dogs pull on a
Mm-hmm.
leash to get away from that feeling. They just don't know. They're trying to like outrun it.
Yeah,
It just makes it worse. So, yeah, magic wand would be lovely.
that would be lovely. And that's a
Gonna,
really nice gift to give. Like, we will take it.
I like it.
When the magic wand appears, we'll hand it
I
to you
looked up
and
on
you can do
my
that.
Facebook. There's this magic wand you could buy now where you put your credit card in, where you can tap, and you could just tap with the magic wand, and wherever you're buying things, people think it's pretty wild and cool.
Hmm. Interesting.
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 Totally off topic. Yeah,
But kind of cool. Never heard of that.
kind of cool.
So if people wanted to learn more about you and your work, how could they do that?
You could find me at my website, Debbie's for Dogs. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. And yeah, I'm just a phone call away,
Wonderful.
or an email. And I would welcome any kind of questions or concern.
Awesome. Well, I will link all of that up in the show notes. And it's been so lovely talking with you today,
So
Debbie.
nice to talk to you too. Thanks for having me. Have a great day. What are you going to cook tonight for dinner?
We're going out.
Oh, good. No worries about the
He can
pizza.
just go into the back of the restaurant and say, "Don't forget I wanted peas."
Don't forget the pizza, right? Thank you, Colleen.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
That's our conversation for today. If something we talked about resonated, I invite you to sit with it. Notice what feels true and what you want to explore further. You don't have to have it all figured out to start moving toward what matters. Whatever showed up for you today, clarity, questions, even resistance, trust that it's pointing you towards something important. For more support, join my weekly notes at colleenpilar.com. And until next time, remember, you are enough. Always. Just as you are.